It is now time to talk about our beloved Edmonton Oilers.
The weekly segment.
We just talked about them last week and we went on like a 20-minute rant. You want to check that out, you should, because it was actually very entertaining.
Yeah, comment down below what you thought.
Our own tires, but I thought it was good. But the Oilers, they found a way to get on our podcast once again because they were beating the Ottawa Senators. I believe it was 3-1 on Hockey Night in Canada in the late game. The Ottawa Senators, Lepore, scored 5 goals in the third period. And after the game, after the Oilers lost again, 6-4, dropping to 2-10-2 over their last 14 games with a minus 21 goal differential, Connor McDavid was at the podium at Rogers Place, and he looked absolutely devastated. He looked like he wanted to be anywhere but that podium in Edmonton. It's like this team has no answers, and Connor McDavid specifically said that in the press conference. You know, it's almost like this guy is just, he has no idea what's happening. This team can't figure it out. They're losing to bad teams. They're on a complete nosedive right now. And the big news that has dropped over this past week is that the Oilers have been in touch with Evander Kane's agent. And it seems like Evander Kane is close to signing a contract with the Edmonton Oilers. So there's a lot going on here, Lepore. This team is a disaster right now. You have this Evander Kane situation going on. How do you see this all playing out in Edmonton?
Why hasn't it happened yet? I'll ask that because the way Kenny was talking about it, it seemed like it was a done deal. And then it comes up with McDavid. And based on how he presented his answer, it seemed like he had been told that, yeah, it's most likely going to happen. So I just don't know why it hasn't happened yet. It could be like a contract thing. Who knows, like a union thing. But this move, typically, I would circle and say, why would you do that? Why would you take a risk on a player who's had his issues with teammates off the ice? Why would you want to bring that drama in the room? The New Zealand All Blacks rugby team, they have a saying, and the saying is no assholes. No assholes allowed, because they know it can really fuck things up. So a player like Evander Kane that has been known to bring drama, been known to bring extra attention, and even that aspect of it where once he joins the team, it's going to be the first question for a lot of guys in the locker room at practice after games. You know, tell us what you think about this Evander Kane edition. So just, again, a distraction. However, you acknowledge the tailspin this Oilers team is on right now. And I said on our pod last week that the Oilers have to do something. They have to make a move. They have to do something to try to spark this team into getting into the right direction. Now, I don't know if Evander Kane is the answer, but he's a good hockey player. He can put up points. So it might be the answer. Or based on how things are going for the Oilers right now, to me, it's worth a shot. It really is. And I'll say that at this point, the way your season is going as of late, what do you have to lose? Nothing really. I mean, you're tail spinning anyway. So if you can add a skilled player and hopefully he can stay well behaved, do it. If I'm Edmonton, I pull the trigger on that deal. I do it.
Desperate times call for desperate measures. That's where we are right now with the Edmonton Oilers. Just looking at the wild card race at the time of recording this podcast, they are sitting 4 points out of a playoff spot right now. Now, they do have games in hand. San Jose currently holds down the second wild card spot in the West. The Oilers have 4 games in hand on them. But this team, they're desperate at this point. Ken Holland sees it. Everything is coming crumbling down around McDavid and Draisaitl. As good as they were at the beginning of the season, as dominant as the offense was, as the power play was, everything is going in the opposite direction right now. And if you can give this team a jolt in the arm, even signing a guy that has shown off the ice he's a complete idiot and makes terrible decisions.
Yeah.
If it takes signing someone like that, who, as we all know, like you said, Lepore, he's a great hockey player. You know, just thinking about this from a pure hockey perspective, Evander Kane would be an excellent fit from a hockey perspective on all 32 teams in the NHL.
He makes you better, like black and white. He makes you better.
He can play in anyone's top six. He just led the San Jose Sharks in scoring last season. This is a guy who can put up 30 goals. He plays a physical brand of hockey. He plays the perfect playoff style of hockey that you want, specifically out of your best players. Like, this is a dude that isn't afraid of anyone on the ice. So playing alongside Connor McDavid or Leon Draisaitl, that would be an incredible fit. And at this point, I agree with you, man. I think the Oilers almost don't have a choice, because can you imagine if they miss the playoffs this season? Like, just the level of embarrassment. I can't even imagine how brutal that would be if they actually miss the playoffs. We talked about this on last week's show, but you have two players in their primes at the peak of their powers in McDavid and Draisaitl in a pretty weak Western Conference, in a pretty weak division. Pacific Division at least. And this team is on the verge of missing the playoffs. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, hopefully it doesn't go there. And I'll say that as a neutral hockey fan. Like, I want to see McDavid in the playoffs. I really do. So
yeah, it's like, who doesn't want to see McDavid in the playoffs? I want to see the most electric player in the sport competing for the Stanley Cup. It's as simple as that. So if it takes going out and signing Evander Kane to try to turn this thing around, even though it could backfire completely, I think at this point, man, it's worth the risk. Simple as that.
And it'll give guys like us something to talk about.
Content.
Good news, bad news, whatever happens with Evander Kane coming to the Edmonton Oilers, it'll be great conversation. So as hockey fans, you want to be entertained. Come on, Edmonton. Let's wake up tomorrow that you've signed Evander Kane.